Hey everyone, this is Lisa from Life in Layout, and today I am back with another Muggles Wizarding Adventures. Of course, I pulled out the Echo Park Witches and Wizards collections, as well as a sketch from a class that I took back in 2019. This is from Scrapbook Cards Today. It was a 365, which is a year-long class, and this is the December lesson. This is actually going to be a double page layout, and I don't have a lot of them in this album, but we took a lot of photos in the Magical Menagerie Mythical Creatures shop at Universal. This is the shop where kids would go to purchase their animal before going to Hogwarts. If you guys have read the books or saw the movies, you know that the kids can bring a pet with them. It's usually an owl, a cat, or a rat. But in the store, they have all kinds of animals. This is a place where you can buy plush animals, not real ones. But in the store as well, there's all kinds of other creatures that are there for decorations, to include frogs and snakes as well as dragons. And I was just so impressed by this store. I took so many pictures while we were there. So I ended up getting quite a few photos on this layout, including using a flip flap. I thought that the owl paper was perfect for the bottom half of this layout. I know that it's really busy. On the left-hand side, I'm going to have my title as well as a few other embellishments, but I really wanted that owl paper to show through. For the top part, I decided to go a little less busy, which is very difficult with this collection because there's not a lot of good B-sides, but I did find this black paper that had some stars on it, and I also pulled out this gold glitter paper to use in the center to separate these two pieces of paper. I really like the gold glitter paper because I feel like it brings in the gold accents that are on the owls. Of course, I pulled out my T-square ruler to make sure that I could get the paper down straight. I added the owl paper and then the black star paper, leaving a little space in between them. And then I added the gold paper in the center. For the right-hand side of the layout, it does call for one 4x6 photo. I am struggling so much with my ATG. I am actually to the point now where I am searching for another one. I know that you can't purchase them anywhere, so I'm looking on like secondhand stores. Almost every day I am looking to see if I can find a replacement, because if this thing completely breaks, I will be devastated. I have no idea what other adhesive I would use. I love this thing, and I'm really bummed that they stopped making it, so hopefully I'll be able to find one secondhand, because I am definitely struggling with it. For the right-hand side of the layout, it does call for a 4x6 photo as well as two smaller photos. I did change it up a little bit. They actually called for different sizes, but I just went with a 2x3. And then at the very far right-hand side, you're supposed to add the owl paper back down. Once I got all of the papers down, I went ahead and trimmed off the excess owl paper. And then I realized that my gold paper wasn't straight. So I pulled out my T-square ruler and my X-Acto knife to trim it off. It was very crooked. I must have not laid it down straight on my trimmer, but I do eventually get that cut off, and now it looks like I cut it straight the first time. For the top half of the layout, it does call for several photos. I added a 4x6, and then I also added a flip flap. I thought about adding it at the top, but I ultimately ended up adding it down at the bottom. I then added a 3x4 photo of the frog. This little guy was actually in the window. You could see him from outside, and he did lots of fun things when you came and stood next to him. He was actually really fun to watch. On the right-hand side, I added the snake photo, as well as a close-up picture of the plush owls that you can purchase, and then also the owl that's in the cage. So this layout has lots of detail shots, but I just couldn't help myself in the store. For the bottom part of the layout, I did decide that I wanted to add something else. I did have two banners because I have multiple sticker sheets, so I decided to go ahead and add the banners to the bottom. And I did have to cut the banner piece because it doesn't reach the 12x12. And when I was doing the initial edit for this video, I realized that I covered up the left-hand side, but I didn't cover up the right-hand side. So I've got to figure out something to add to that. I'll definitely do that before I take my still shots so that I'm able to cover up that slit over on the far right. I looked through the embellishments and I found this tag that says Witches and Wizards, Magical Friends, Goblins and Ghosts, and Magical Knights. It makes no sense whatsoever, but I was just going with the fact that it was a tag that I could add to the far right hand side. Over on the left, I added some luggage pieces. I thought, of course, the kids probably would buy their creature before they go to school, and they would need luggage before they go to school, so that's why I added the luggage. For the title piece, I found this logo online. I dropped the logo in Silhouette, and then I have a bunch of these types of shapes that I picked up from the Silhouette store. Many years ago, I was on their like monthly subscription, and I would buy things like this when I needed to spend my money before it expired. I knew that I could use these kind of like basic shapes. I did print it out on white paper, but I felt like it was very stark, so I took this brown. I think it is gathered twigs, and I inked the edges, making it really dark around the edge, and then I flipped over my layout and brought in some of the ink to the center. I left the very center white, so it almost looks like it's like a bright white in the center, and then it's fading into this lighter brown and then into the darker brown. I did decide to put the title piece up on some foam adhesive, and of course putting my stamping block on top of it to weigh it down. I then pulled out my jute twine and added some twine over on the right hand side to my tag, and then pulled out a glue dot to make sure that the twine stayed in place. I found a little cauldron, and I added that right next to the title piece. And then the sketch calls for a bunch of embellishments across the entire layout, almost covering up that gold piece completely. There isn't a lot of small embellishments in this collection, but I was able to make it work with just a few of the pieces. I pulled out books, as well as an owl in a cage. I also pulled out wands and potion bottles, as well as a little tag that says Wizards Welcome. I did decide to use fun foam, as well as the 1mm foam adhesive strips from scrapbook.com. This gave me 3 different dimensions for these pieces, because a couple of them I laid flat to the layout, and then I did use the 1mm as well as the fun foam, which is a little bit more than 2mm. And I love the varying heights of all of these embellishments. And I'm really just looking through all of the sticker sheets as well as any of the ephemera pieces, trying to find anything that would work. I did end up finding a book that says Magic and Wizards. I also found a little circle that says Magic. I found a little skull, a red circle that has Harry's glasses on it. Of course, I had to add another owl because this is where you would go to purchase your owls. I really wanted to make that broom work, but it just wasn't fitting right. I found a bat, and I added that over next to the luggage pieces. And then I found another set of books. And because the one embellishment that has been repeated so many times in this collection are pumpkins, I decided to go ahead and add a pumpkin as well. I did move some of the stickers to one sheet, and I had a ton of the little tiny stars as well as the stars that are within the circles. So I felt like that would be a perfect touch to add some more detail to this little centerpiece without overwhelming it, since a lot of the embellishments in this collection are really large. I also decided to add a lightning bolt over on the right hand side, as well as the word witch and the word believe over on the left. I think that I used like all of the stars that were on that little sticker sheet. I did end up pulling out my little pokey tool to get some of the tinier stars onto the layout. The journaling for this layout says, if he were starting Hogwarts today, Eli decided a rat would be his perfect companion. Which I was kind of surprised about. I didn't think that he would have chosen a rat. I would have thought he would have chosen an owl. But if that's what he would like to take to school with him if he was going to Hogwarts, I say go for it. I did decide to add the journaling over on the left-hand side right next to that cauldron. I felt like I needed something else to fit over there, and I found another owl in a cage as well. So over on the far right, there's a brown owl, and then over on the left next to the journaling is a white owl. And then that is it for this video. Here is my final layout as well as some close-ups. If you guys were starting Hogwarts, what animal would be your companion? Let me know in the comments below. If you guys enjoyed this video, if you wouldn't mind giving me a thumbs up, I would really appreciate it. If you haven't done so already and you want to see more double page layout inspiration, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Thanks everyone for watching, and I hope that you have a scrappy day.